The New York Football Giants are signing Jashaun Corbin to their active roster. They are poaching him from the Carolina Panthers practice squad. There's a couple of injuries in the backfield. Eric Gray, Gary Brightwell, they left the game this past week. Saquon Barkley also has an elbow injury. And with the Giants thin in the running back position, they go back to old Mr. Reliable, Jashaun Corbin. We're going to break it all down in today's video, and we'll get you the latest news on Barkley and that injury. But this is why you subscribe to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. When breaking Giants news happens, we make a video. I can promise you this. We're going to be the first video out on YouTube breaking down the Jashaun Corbin signing. This is why you subscribe. Nobody does it better than we do on YouTube. So subscribe, turn notifications on, and help us get to 38,000 subs. You might be asking yourself, or asking me, yo, Marsh, why are the Giants signing Jashaun Corbin? They cut him when they went to the 53-man roster. Well, the Giants are injured in the backfield right now. Eric Gray injured his hand. Eric Gray left the game with an injured calf. Remember, he fumbled that first punt, and he got brought out there for that second punt. He did not return for that third punt return. It was Sterling Shepard who ended up being the guy that took over there, and he obviously fumbled a punt return as well. But Eric Gray did not return, and I'm thinking with an injury like this to Gray as well as to Gary Brightwell, who is your backup to the backup, four-string running back, he injured his hamstring as well. And I don't think the Giants would have signed Jashaun Corbin if they didn't think the injuries to either A, Gary Brightwell, or B, Eric Gray, were all that serious, because if you poach someone off of the practice squad to your active roster, I believe they have to be on your roster for 4 games, or you at least have to pay them for 4 games. So Jashaun Corbin's going to get an NFL game check for 4 games. He is on the Giants' active roster, not practice squad. It is their active roster, because if you steal someone from a practice squad, the only way you can do that is you apply them to your active roster. And that's what I am seeing right now. Just double checking. Pat Leonard was the first to report it. Dan Duggan is confirming it. We talked about it on the channel, though. Also, Barkley hyperextended his elbow versus Washington yesterday. If you notice, the TV crew kept on showing that shoulder, elbow pad that Barkley was wearing throughout the game. And I don't think it's going to be serious for Saquon Barkley. I think he's going to be ready to go this Sunday against the New York Jets. But I do think that maybe Eric Gray or maybe Garrett Brightwell may be out for an extended period of time. Like we mentioned, I don't think that they would have signed someone to their active roster. I know that he's been here. He knows the playbooks. He'll hit the ground running, and that's all good and well and dandy. But that's 4 game checks of NFL money accounting against the cap, and now you got Jashaun Corbin back on the roster. And Seeps, the Giants never, ever, ever should have cut Jashaun Corbin. We watched all the preseason games together, and I thought he was the best looking back in preseason by far.
Dude, I did too. And the thing that always stood out to me in preseason specifically was the blitz pickup.
Yeah.
I mean, he was fantastic in that regard. I was shocked when they actually did cut Corbin originally to get down to the 53. But, man, Corbin's just a dude. And obviously, Giants fans just root for this guy.
Yeah. He's a guy that has all the fan base behind him. He was a 2022 UDFA out of Florida State. He played good in the 2022 preseason. We'll show you the preseason stats and more, and we got the 2023 preseason stats, but he ran the ball hard. And like you talked about, his blitz pickups were extremely savvy. You get those things out of professional running backs, and he was an undrafted guy, and it was almost so noticeable because, let's be honest, Eric Gray was not good in that department, and you would see him get in there and just get right in that linebacker's chest, pick up the run blitz. He also was really good, Seeps, turning in negative 2-yard runs into positive 3 or 4-yard runs. I'm a big fan of him, man.
Yeah, and we also kind of saw the breakaway speed a little bit in the preseason. We were talking about it. Well, we see it now, how bad the backup offensive line is for the Giants. I mean, he wasn't really running behind any help, but, he had pretty good numbers. Yeah,
you look at what he's done over the last 2 preseasons for the New York Giants, and these aren't numbers that are oh, this guy's just an absolute Hall of Famer, but he's a guy that put together a couple of solid preseasons. In 2022, he had 21 rushing attempts, and he averaged 7 yards per attempt, had 73 rushing yards in a couple of games. 7 rushing attempts per game. I misread that, misspoke. 21 rushes in the 2022 preseason. He averaged 7 touches per game, had 73 rushing yards, had a rushing average, yards per carry of 3.5, but he also got involved a little bit in the passing game. He had 2 rushing touchdowns in 2022, had a rushing touchdown this past year in 2023, got that rushing average back down to 3.2, which is not great, but he doesn't also have much to work with like you talked about. We know the Giants' starting offensive line is not all that great. Their backup offensive line is even worse, and we're seeing the third stringers right now. But you get a guy that's going to be ready to come in, and I'm extremely happy to see Jashaun Corbin back on this team. I never thought they should have cut him. I think he's just as good of a running back as Eric Gray, but the thing is, Eric Gray's a 5th-round pick. Jashaun Corbin's a UDFA. Sometimes in the NFL, it matters where you get drafted, and I don't believe that should ever be the case. The best players should make the team, and it was evident that the best running back in the preseason was Corbin. I'm happy he's back on this team. Type the JCs in the comments one more time to show him some love. We'll talk about Saquon Barkley and more coming up in a second, but I got to tell you guys about our proud sponsor, Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use that promo code CLNS, and Prize Picks is going to match your initial deposit up to $100. If you enjoy playing fantasy football and you want to play daily fantasy football and win real money and have the chance to take money out of your account whenever you need to, download the app, prizepicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. I'm rolling with a little quarterback passing yards more today. I think Kirk Cousins is going to have to air it out against the San Francisco 49ers, and I also think that Brock Purdy is going to have a big game as well. So I'm going with more on both of those yards from the quarterbacks. It's a lot of fun. The more players you have on your entry, you can do 2 to 6 players. The closer you are to 6, the higher your multiplier and payout is going to be. One more time, prizepicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. That link will be clickable down in the comments and description of today's video. News of the day, Jashaun Corbin signed, but we got to spend some time on Saquon Barkley. He did have an injury in that game. He had a hyperextended elbow. He told the media he hyperextended his elbow, and that's not good, to be quite frank with you. I'm not sure what the recovery time is like. He ended up continuing the game, and once he told the media and the reporters that it was a hyperextended elbow, they immediately asked him, pretty much said, is that why you fumbled the football on the game-winning drive where the Giants were trying to put the game on ice? And he said no. Said he just got to be better in that situation. Talked about how he's been a part of 3 turnovers this year for the New York Giants, and he's got to be better taking care of the ball. Plain and simple. That's one thing I always respect about Saquon Barkley. Players fuck up sometimes, and he's always going to take the account for that. He had 2 hands on the ball. Just wasn't strong enough with it. But I liked what I saw from Saquon overall. Look, the yards per carry here is not great. 21 carries, 77 yards. Had a long run at 12. But once again, not a lot of room to run. But we saw the playmaking ability shine through. Had one of the Giants' 2 touchdowns on about a 32-yard catch from Tyrod Taylor. Taylor did a great job of diagnosing the defense, playing a little backyard football, sandlot scramble drill. Barkley just runs a little out route to the left. Taylor sees a linebacker on him, gets his playmaker the ball. 26 does the rest, and we're dancing in the end zone. Saquon Barkley is one of the best in the business. It's unfortunate that the injuries continue to follow this guy. Feels like he was just getting healthy from that ankle injury. Flashed that speed last week against the Buffalo Bills in that fourth quarter. Had a 33-yard run, had a 19-yard run. Hopefully the hyperextended elbow doesn't hinder him going forward. So that's something that I'm going to be monitoring. But the news of the day, with injuries to Eric Gray, with injuries to Gary Brightwell, and with Saquon Barkley, I'm not going to say injured. I'm going to say nicked up a little bit. The Giants, they go to the familiar face, Jashaun Corbin. He is going to be returning to the New York Giants active roster, as I could see potentially Gary Brightwell or Eric Gray going to injured reserved here. The Giants had a couple of spots open on their practice squad, but the thing is, if you sign someone from the practice squad, it has to be them going to your active roster. So, Jashaun Corbin, welcome back. The Giants have injuries there. Corbin had a strong camp, knows the system, and can step right in if he is needed. So, news of the day. That's why you subscribe. Hit that sub button. And remember, sub for New York Giants dubs.